The church bells tolled loudly through the rain as Elara stumbled through the open chapel doors, soaked and shivering, her blood-stained hands clutching the torn fabric of her wedding dress. Gasps erupted from the guests who had moments ago celebrated a union that would never happen. Standing at the altar, Alpha Kale's eyes darkened, jaw clenched, the veins in his neck bulging with rage and disbelief. Elara whispered, barely audible through the sobs choking her, "He wasn't just my father, he was yours too." A hush fell, thick and choking. The chandelier trembled above them as thunder cracked. Elara collapsed, her scarred shoulder exposed for the first time, raw and jagged beneath the soaked satin. Kale's fists tightened. His wolf surged beneath his skin, snarling, breaking through the mask of control. No one moved. No one breathed. In that still moment, as chaos brewed beneath the surface, the world held its breath, waiting for the Alpha's wrath or redemption. Later that night, the rain had not stopped. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within Kale's mind. He stood at the edge of the forest bordering the pack lands, staring into the darkness, the wind howling past him like a warning. Elara's words echoed again and again. His half-sister. The thought was venom. His wolf clawed at his insides, furious, disoriented. The image of her scar seared itself into his memory, a mark of pain he didn't understand, but couldn't ignore. Kale punched the nearest tree, bark cracking beneath his strength. He growled. Why now? Why her? Behind him, the shadows shifted. A figure emerged, the elder shaman, her face lined with ancient wisdom. Because blood truths, she said, never stay buried. Elara sat on the cold floor of the healer's cabin, wrapped in a damp woolen blanket, the scent of herbs mingling with the storm's scent, still clinging to her skin. She traced the scar on her shoulder, breath shaking. He looked at me like I was filth, she whispered. The healer, a stoic woman with graying braids, stirred a steaming potion in silence before kneeling beside her. Scars tell stories the tongue fears to speak, she said softly. Elara nodded, eyes distant. They'll never forgive me. The healer placed a hand over Elara's scar. Then let them remember you, she murmured, as the one who didn't run. The next morning, mist clung to the village like a secret. Kale watched from a distance as Elara stepped out of the healer's hut, her eyes scanning the silent onlookers. Whispers trailed behind her like ghosts. Children were pulled back, elders averted their gazes. Kale's jaw clenched, heart thudding. He had ordered silence, demanded protection, but their judgment hung heavy. Elara paused, standing still beneath the ancient tree in the village square. She turned slowly and saw him. Their eyes locked. Time warped. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Kale's feet refused to move. His chest burned with something unfamiliar, doubt. That evening, Kale sat alone in the Alpha's chamber, a place of command and isolation. The fire crackled, throwing restless shadows across ancient stone walls. He pored over the shaman's records, bloodlines, birth scrolls, forgotten alliances. There, buried in the brittle parchment, was truth. His father's name twice. 2 women. 2 children. A single betrayal wrapped in legacy. Kale's hands trembled. He whispered, "She never lied." The weight of his fury collapsed inwards, leaving only silence. Then, something stirred in the shadows. Elara, her eyes unreadable. "You wanted the truth," she said. "Now you have it." Morning light bled through the trees as Elara awoke to birdsong layered over distant howls. Her muscles ached, her skin chilled to the bone, but her mind burned with questions. She sat up, clutching the locket, heart still echoing last night's discovery. She needed answers. Someone who knew more than whispered legends and half-truths. Pulling her gown tighter, she began her trek back toward the outer village where the seers dwelled. The woods whispered with energy, her scar pulsing faintly beneath her skin. As she reached the stone path near the ridge, an old man with milky eyes blocked her path. "You walk a path your blood carved long ago," he said, Elara froze. He smiled. The scar isn't just a mark, it's a lock. And the key is waking. Kale slammed his fist into the map table. I want every record searched, every elder questioned. That girl carries power older than our bloodlines. His beta hesitated. Alpha, it could be coincidence. Kale snarled, silencing him. Scars don't burn by accident. Something's waking, and I'll be damned if I let it blindside us. He turned to the ancient tapestries lining the war hall, eyes resting on the faded figure of a woman with a glowing chest wound. I've seen this before, he whispered. One of the elders approached. Alpha, if her bloodline is what I suspect, then she may be the key to ending the curse of the severed moon. Kale's eyes narrowed. Or unleashing it. The seer led Elara to a circle of stones veined with glowing roots. Sit, he said. As she obeyed, the scar flared, and the locket grew hot in her palm. The air shimmered. Vision spilled from the stone. A woman standing in fire. A child crying. A wolf howling under a torn moon. Elara gasped. What is this? The seer's voice was distant. Memory. Blood memory. Carried through your line, locked away until pain breaks the seal. Elara trembled, tears streaking her cheeks. In the vision, she saw Kale, not as he was, but as a child, hand in hers, both marked by the same glow. No, she whispered. But the scar pulsed again. Truth had found her. Back in the Alpha's keep, Kale stared into a fire, jaw clenched, thoughts swirling. The elder's words echoed. If the curse was real, and Elara was the catalyst, it meant war. Or salvation. He hated the way she made him feel. Weak. Conflicted. But more than that, connected. As if their fates had been bound before they ever met. He closed his eyes. And in that moment, he saw her. Clear as moonlight, kneeling in a ring of stone, the scar glowing bright. He shot to his feet. She's in the grove of roots. The elder turned, eyes wide. Then, it's already begun. Elara stood at the heart of the grove, surrounded by memory and magic. Her breath came fast, heart hammering as the locket pulsed with heat. Show me, she whispered. The vision swirled faster. The woman with the glowing scar, her mother. The child, Kale. And a mark of twin flames joining two bloodlines. A promise. A warning. You were never meant to be enemies, the seer murmured. You were forged as balance. Elara blinked as reality returned. Behind her, a twig snapped. She turned. Kale stood at the edge of the circle, eyes wide, breathing hard. What are you? He asked. Elara stood tall, light pulsing in her chest. The key you tried to bury. Kale's boots crushed dry leaves as he stepped into the grove, drawn toward Elara like a moth to flame. Her light, the scar's glow, dimmed as she exhaled slowly. You followed me, she said, voice steady. You called me, Kale replied, though he didn't understand how. The tension between them sparked like flint on steel. I saw what you saw, he admitted. The promise, the bond. We were forged together, weren't we? Elara nodded. But something broke it, something cruel. Kale's eyes darkened. Our fathers. Elara turned to the stones. Their sins still chain us. Kale moved closer, his hand hovering above her scar again. Then we break the chains. Together. She hesitated, then let him touch it. No burn. Only warmth. In the heart of the mountain fortress, elders convened in a hidden chamber. Scrolls lay unrolled across the obsidian table, inked in blood and secrecy. The Scarborn prophecy has awakened, one elder muttered. Another scoffed. The last time it stirred, 3 clans burned. But the oldest among them whispered, and balance was nearly restored. Silence fell. A rune flared on the table's surface, pulsing with the same light that shimmered in Elara's scar. Outside the chamber, Kale approached, flanked by 2 gods. He pushed the doors open. We need the truth, he he said. The elders stood, their expressions unreadable. Then you must be prepared to bleed for it. Elara stood alone at the edge of the waterfall, where legends claimed souls whispered back. Mist kissed her face as she clutched the locket. The wind carried voices, not echoes, but memories. Her mother's laughter. Her father's final breath. The scar on her chest glowed, not painfully, but like a heartbeat, aligning with something long lost. A silver wolf appeared on the opposite bank, not real, but a spirit. It bowed to her before fading. Elara's tears fell freely now. She was not just her father's daughter. She was a legacy. She was key. She dropped to her knees, whispering, "I'm ready to remember." The waterfall thundered louder, as if in answer. Kale knelt before the elders as the ancient rite began. Symbols were etched in red across his skin, burning truths into flesh. The chamber trembled as ancestral voices rose in unison. His blood called to hers. Elara, across the forest, felt the same pull, a force beyond will dragging her to the old temple ruins. She ran, breathless. In the center of the stone floor, Kale collapsed, eyes flashing gold. "Elara," he whispered. As she burst through the doors, the room erupted in flame. Not of fire, but of memory. Their lives, tangled by fate and betrayal, unfolded around them in searing light. They stood in the center of the chaos, their hands meeting, the scar between them glowing brighter than ever. The visions calmed. Their ancestors' voices faded to silence. Kale looked at her, not with anger, not even apology, but with awe. "It was always you," he said. Elara's lips trembled. "We were meant to heal what they broke." In that moment, their bond sealed, not through blood or duty, but choice. The temple's light dimmed. Outside, the first moon of the season rose whole, unsevered, for the first time in centuries. Somewhere in the dark, a curse shattered, and peace began to hum again. The night after the bonding, Kale stood alone on the northern cliffs, wind tugging at his cloak. Behind him, Elara approached quietly. "You didn't come to the feast," she said. He didn't turn. "I felt something else, a fracture." She stepped beside him, eyes following the sea's dark waves. "You mean the silence that followed the bond?" Kale nodded. "The power we awakened, it calmed too quickly." Elara's brow furrowed. "You think we missed something?" Kale's voice dropped. "Or someone hid something." In the far distance, a shadow moved across the sky. Massive, winged, wrong. They both turned toward it, the bond between them pulsing cold. In the ruins of the old council tower, Kale and Elara uncovered the forgotten chamber, the archive of shadows. Dust choked the air as Kale pried open a rusted gate. Inside, wall after wall of glyphs pulsed faintly in Elara's presence. She stepped forward, drawn by instinct. "These are warnings," she whispered, tracing a symbol that flared at her touch. Kale frowned. "A third bloodline?" Elara's eyes widened. "No, a betrayal, hidden by both sides." A final wall revealed a mural, Kale's father and Elara's, standing over a broken circle, a blade between them. "They shattered the bond," Kale said quietly. "On purpose." Later that night, Elara stared into the locket. Its warmth had faded. "They did this to protect us," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. Kale sat across from her, firelight dancing across his face. "Or to protect power." The silence between them stretched, broken only by the crackle of flame. "What if we were never meant to finish their story?" she asked. Kale reached across, touching her hand gently. "Then we rewrite it." The bond between them pulsed, tentative, uncertain, but real. Elara looked into his eyes, and for the first time she saw not the alpha, but the man. Dawn broke as the alarm bell sounded. One of the outer villages had fallen. Kale and Elara arrived to smoke and ruin. Houses blackened, fields scorched in wide claw marks. Survivors whispered of a winged creature, a shadow with silver eyes. Elara knelt near a collapsed hut, scar flaring. "It's looking for the bond," she murmured. Kale's eyes scanned the horizon. "Or trying to break it." Among the wreckage, a sigil burned into stone, a twisted version of the bond mark. Elara's breath caught. "That's not just a third bloodline. That's something else." Kale nodded grimly. "Something old and awake." That evening, under the rising twin moons, the seer returned with a dire truth. "The thing you awoke, the scourge, it was banished by the first bond-bearers. But its prison cracked the night you touched the scar." Elara's stomach turned. "Can we seal it again?" The seer shook her head. "Not seal. Only destroy." Kale gripped Elara's hand. "Then we fight." The seer extended a blade, etched with both their lineages. "Only blood and unity can kill it." Elara took it, her hands trembling. As the moonlight kissed the steel, their reflections merged in its sheen. The final battle had begun to whisper its promise. The air crackled with unnatural silence as Kale and Elara entered the scorched valley known in legends as the Maw. The ground was split, ancient runes glowing at the edges of the canyon. From the depths came the scourge, a towering figure of shadow and scale, wings unfurled, eyes like molten silver. Elara's scar ignited with searing light. Kale growled, his wolf barely contained. "We hold the blade together," Elara said. Kale nodded, their fingers wrapping tightly around the hilt. The scourge stepped forward, the earth trembling. "Blood," it hissed. "Bond." Elara shouted, "Not yours," and leapt into the storm of ash. The scourge struck like lightning. Kale blocked, his body flung against stone, blood blooming from his side. Elara screamed but held firm, the blade singing in her hand. The runes on the ground pulsed in time with her heartbeat. "I won't run," she whispered, stepping forward alone. The creature lunged. She slashed. The blade met flesh and recoiled. "Not enough." Kale coughed, rising shakily. "Together, Elara." She turned, his eyes glowing gold. She moved to him, pressed the blade between their joined palms. Light burst outward. The scourge shrieked as cracks formed across its wings. But it wasn't done yet. Not nearly. The sky turned black. Lightning struck around them, earth splitting open. The scourge screamed, a sound from beyond time. Kale pulled Elara behind a pillar of stone. "There's a seal below," he said. "My father spoke of it once." Elara gritted her teeth. "Then we trap it. Now." They rushed to the rune-carved pit. The scourge descended, faster than before. Kale dove, tackling it mid-air, dragging it toward the seal. "Kale!" Elara screamed, racing after. The stone flared beneath them as Kale shouted, "Finish it!" Elara raised the blade high, tears burning. "For all of us." She drove it down. The blade sank into the seal, unleashing a shockwave of golden fire. The scourge's scream fractured the valley. Its body split in light, dissolving like ash in sunlight. Elara collapsed, lungs burning. Silence fell, total, sacred. She searched the dust, no sign of Kale. "No," she whispered. Then, movement. A hand emerged. Kale, bruised and bloodied, crawled from the pit. She rushed to him, pulling him into her arms. "You came back," she sobbed. He nodded, barely conscious. "I told you, we finish it together." She kissed his forehead as the moons emerged above them. The curse was gone. But they were forever changed. In the heart of the restored grove, Elara and Kale stood before the elders. No crowns. No speeches. Only silence and reverence. The bond mark now shimmered faintly on both their hands, a scar no longer of pain, but legacy. "The scourge is gone," Kale said, voice rough. "But its shadow will test us again." Elara stepped forward. "Then, let our bond be the light." The elders bowed. The forest hummed in response. Elara looked at Kale, her voice barely a whisper. We didn't break, even when we should have, Kale replied. That's what makes us stronger. And the grove bloomed around them. Weeks passed since the Scourge's defeat, and peace settled over the land, like morning mist. In the village square, children played near the restored fountain, its waters now flowing pure. Elara watched from a bench, her scar no longer burning but gently warm, a quiet reminder. Kale approached, a basket of fresh bread in hand. You look like someone remembering too much, he teased. Elara smiled faintly. I am wondering if peace is real, or just borrowed time. Kale sat beside her. Peace isn't perfect. It's earned every day. They shared a quiet moment, watching laughter return to a place once ruled by fear. Elara returned to her father's abandoned cottage, tucked deep in the woods. Dust coated every surface, memories etched in the worn floorboards. She moved slowly, her fingers grazing old books, a cracked cup, and a child's drawing of a wolf and a girl. She smiled softly. In the hearth lay a hidden compartment. Inside, his journal. As she opened it, faded pages whispered truths. The scar isn't just power, it's choice, he'd written. I chose to hide it. My daughter must choose to reveal it. Elara pressed the journal to her chest. I choose truth, she whispered, and finally felt whole. Kale stood before the pack council, eyes steady. No more secrets, he declared. The time of hoarding power is over. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some hesitant, others hopeful. Elara joined him at the dais, head held high. We offer unit, not through fear, but understanding. A young wolf stepped forward. What if the scars return? Elara smiled gently. Then we face them, together. The council voted that day, unanimously. The old ways would change. And for the first time in generations, the wolves howled not for war, but for peace. Under the newly healed moon, Kale and Elara walked the forest path hand in hand. No guards. No tension. Just the hush of trees and the crunch of earth. Do you ever wonder what life might have been like without the scar? Elara asked. Kale thought, then smiled. Less painful, less meaningful. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I used to hate it. Now, I think it saved me. He kissed her temple. It made you. In the distance, the grove shimmered under moonlight, waiting. They didn't rush. There was time now. To live, to rebuild, to love. The grove stood quiet, its stones no longer glowing, but alive with memory. Elara knelt where it all began, laying a single flower on the ground. For the ones we lost, she whispered. Kale stood beside her silent. The wind stirred gently, as if whispering back. They stood together, the scar between them no longer burning, but binding. What now? Kale asked. Elara looked to the stars. Now, we write a new story. They turned and walked away, leaving the grove behind, not as the broken children of two legacies, but as the founders of something entirely new. The village was alive with preparations, ribbons strung between trees, tables of food, children running barefoot through grass. A celebration not for war or lineage, but renewal. Elara stood near the well, watching a girl trace the scar pattern in chalk. She smiled. The scar was no longer hidden. It was legend, strength, and story. Kale approached with dust on his boots and joy in his eyes. They want us to speak, he said. Elara laughed softly. We've said enough with survival. He extended a hand. Then let's dance. As they joined the circle of celebration, the forest echoed with life and laughter. Elara visited the grove one last time. Alone. The stones were quiet, but warm. She knelt beside the central stone and placed the locket there. This belongs to the earth now, she whispered. Not hidden in shadows. Her reflection shimmered in the stone's surface, not ghostly, but whole. Behind her, soft footsteps. Kale. Leaving the past behind? He asked. She shook her head, letting it root so something new can grow. He helped her up. The locket began to glow, then gently faded. Elara smiled. The scar hummed beneath her skin, not in pain, but in peace. In the forest clearing where they first collided, Kale and Elara stood again. "Strange, isn't it?" he said. "How something so violent became our beginning." Elara nodded. "And now it's just a place, just trees." Kale looked around. "But it remembers." The wind stirred the leaves, as if agreeing. Elara took his hand. "Then let it remember truth." She stepped into the center of the clearing, her scar glowing faintly, a quiet pulse of presence. The wolves watched from the tree line, silent, respectful. The bond had changed everything, even them. Kale stood on the cliffs once more, but this time not in solitude. Elara beside him, their people behind them, watching the sea glisten. "It doesn't feel like an ending," she whispered. Kale nodded. "Because it isn't. It's the world starting again." Far in the sky, a hawk soared, no longer a shadow but a promise. Elara leaned into his side. "Do you think they'd be proud?" she asked. "Of us?" Kale looked at her, then out over the horizon. "I think they'd be amazed." And with that, the future opened before them like the sea, vast, alive, and waiting. That night, beneath the fully healed moon, the grove stood silent. No glowing stones, no magic, just a place reborn. Elara walked slowly to the tree where it all began, fingertips brushing its bark. Kale waited there, his cloak draped loosely over his shoulders, his face calm but unreadable. The wind whispered softly through the leaves. "Would you still have hated me?" Elara asked gently. "If you had never touched the scar?" Kale turned to her, his voice a low murmur. "No. I think the scar just reminded me I had a heart." Elara looked down, her hand unconsciously tracing the mark that had changed everything. "And now?" Kale stepped closer, taking her hand and placing it over his chest. "Now, I know it beats for you." Her breath caught. She leaned forward, forehead resting against his. "Then let it never forget." In that moment, no prophecy hung above them. No curse waited in the shadows. Just a boy and a girl, scarred but whole, kissing beneath silver light, sealing the story that almost broke them, with love.